What have you enjoyed the most of the movies that you've made, or what are the ones that you really feel like, oh my God, I loved making that one? You know, is Royal Tenenbaums like a really fun shoot, or some of them look great and it's an amazing performance, but maybe it wasn't as easy to make?
Well, I think maybe the Royal Tenenbaums, just because, like you were saying, Rushmore was really fun to make, and just happy that Owen and Wes got to make another movie, because we thought Bottle Rocket was it. There was always kind of a feeling of melancholy while we were making it, because we knew that the studio didn't like it. They didn't like the dailies. They were always going to be sending executives down to kind of monitor us.
Right.
So just the fact that those guys got to make another movie, and then that they were able to get Bill Murray to act in it, was really exciting. So then, on the Tenenbaums, just knowing how much Wes loved New York, the fact that he'd get to shoot in New York, and have Gene Hackman and
I know,
and Angelica
incredible.
Houston, and really start putting people in it. That for me was probably the most exciting of those, and then really fun just to get to visit, the Life Aquatic, and get to see Wes shooting in Europe and stuff like that. But in terms of the things that have been the most fun to make, it's always kind of been with, funny people. When I've gotten to work with Will Ferrell, that's always been, he's such a good guy, but also just a funny guy and a hard worker. That's always kind of been the most fun to me and exciting. And I've just, growing up loving Saturday Night Live, and then getting to work with people that were in it. I mean, to me, it always seemed like, it's like you have people that say, oh, I have a friend that's a really funny guy. And, there are those funny people you meet, and then you meet people like, yourself or Will, where it's like a professional athlete, where you think like, okay, that's another level. Or somebody like Kristen Wiig, where just, it's not just, the takes and the work you're doing. It's just being around people like that for an extended period of time is really, really fun and interesting.
One of the things that you made a really good point about Will Ferrell, which is he's a very hard worker, and he's so, I think, disciplined and has so much talent. But he's also a guy will go with the bit. You know what I mean? He's happy to mess around and play. And to me, that was always, because they're really funny people that don't really love to play. Right. They'll turn it on, but then it comes off. And then there are people like Will, he'll start a bit, or you can start a bit with him, and it will just go. And he's having a good time, and it's not being recorded. It's not for anybody. It's just to honor that moment of stupidity.
One time I'd run into Will at the U.S. Open tennis in New York, and Will was with his kids at the time, and one of his sons was probably like 6 or 7, and we were sitting at kind of a high table with like bar stools watching the tennis, and his kids were around, and Will was saying he was kind of worried they'd had like too many Cokes. They were getting all kind of jacked up. And then at one point they had Will and I on the Jumbotron talking and didn't know it, and his son came up to the table, so his chin's just kind of at table level. He's like, Dad. And Will turns and the son points to the Jumbotron, and Will looks at the Jumbotron, and while looking at it, puts his hand on his son's face and just pushes it out of frame. And it was still one of the funniest things. And then the little hands come up. It was still one of the funniest, and just like a physical thing, not even a joke or a line, but it's still about the funniest thing I've ever seen Will do. Just a huge hand on his face, pushing him down and out of the frame while on the Jumbotron.
I saw him once. I was on stage with. He was getting an award. It might have been the Twain Prize. I can't remember what it was, but he was getting some award, and it's one of those awards where a bunch of us who've been honoring him are on stage, and he's there giving his big speech, and his wife is sitting up in the balcony, with his family, and he just starts going after her for getting a little mouthy. I remember that, and it was. It was all a joke. But he's like, I'm hearing a little lip from you, lady. And I think it's the Kennedy Center or something. And it was so funny because he was being so wildly inappropriate in a comedic way. And it was clearly a joke, but just fantastic. And I thought, no one's ever done that at the Kennedy Center, told their wife to keep it down a bit. I'm sick of your lip.